You know, keep it pretty simple. That Bass Pro cranking stick is, in my opinion, impossible to beat for all crankbait fishing, but it definitely does the job here. If you wanted to step down to a 6.6, you could go with that and either a medium or medium light action in that Bass Pro cranking stick. But for me, hey everybody, Ott Defo, welcome back to the garage. And in this Ott's Garage video, I want to go through the setup that I use for Tiny. This is the second bait in that Rapala OG line, and you know, Slim was a great bait and still is a great bait and will be for a long time. And we've went through the setup with it, and hopefully if you've not seen that, you can go back and check that out and know just the right setup that I always fish Slim on. But for Tiny, it's a little bit smaller bait, so you know, I'm going to fish this bait on a little bit different setup. I'm going to walk you through a bait caster rod and reel setup, but there are also times, just know that I do fish this on a spinning rod, especially really, really windy conditions. But day in and day out, the bait casting setup that I've got right here that I'm about to go through is what I like to fish it on. I just feel like I'm as efficient as far as the length of cast and the way I'm able to fish the bait. But I definitely like the control that I have over the bait as well as fish with a bait caster a little bit better than I do with a spinning rod setup. So for me, very similar, honestly, to what I fish Slim on. The biggest difference is the action of the rod. You know, Slim is a little bit heavier bait. It casts really, really well. Tiny is a fairly small bait, fairly lightweight, and because of that, I'm going to fish it on a lighter action rod. This is a medium action Bass Pro cranking stick, where I fish a medium heavy most of the time on any of my baits that are a little bit heavier. You know, they're heavy enough that medium heavy really loads up well and casts them out there, but that medium heavy just honestly overpowers Tiny on the cast. It also overpowers those little small hooks that I've got on Tiny. It comes with VMC hybrid short shank trebles that are size number 5, so they're a pretty light wire hook, and I like that little bit lighter action rod. You don't need a lot of power to be able to drive those hooks into those fish. And as we all know, in cold water cranking, a lot of times those fish really just kind of nip at the bait, and they don't eat the bait extremely well all the time. And those little bit lighter wire hooks definitely seem to you know, to hook those fish better, as well as that lighter action rod to be able to fight those fish a little better and get them in. Same reel that I use for all my crankbait fishing, Bass Pro Platinum reel, 6:8 to 1 gear ratio. That is the only reel I fish crankbaits on. And then another difference that I do with Tiny is the line size. I like 10-pound test XPS fluorocarbon the best for Tiny. I'll use 12 a good bit of the time if I'm fishing you know, around a little bit more cover. If I was fishing it extremely shallow all the time, I wouldn't mind to step up to 14. It's going to fish okay on 14. You are going to lose some depth out of it. You know, you're going to take what's a 4.5 foot diving bait on 10-pound test down to maybe hit 4 with 12-pound test. If you went up to 14, you're looking at like 3, maybe 3.5 tops is all you're going to get out of Tiny on 14-pound test. So, you know, you kind of lose 6 inches or so of diving depth every time you step up in line size. But that's the rod and reel setup. Like I mentioned, I will occasionally fish it on a spinning rod setup. Usually that's a 6.9, either medium or medium light action. I'm gonna fish the medium light if I am fishing it on braid with a fluorocarbon leader. Medium action if I'm fishing it just on straight fluorocarbon, and those are going to be a 6'9" in that carbon light rod. It's going to be the setup that I fish that on. But that's what I mean. I love fishing Tiny on that bait casting outfit if I can, and most of the time I can definitely get away with it. The nice thing with Tiny, and what I've kind of learned on a bait caster, is the bait doesn't tumble quite as much on the cast. The bait's going to throw a little bit more like a dart, and it's going to go kind of where you throw it. On a spinning rod, you may get some really great casts, some really good long casts, and then the next one the bait may want to tumble a little bit because of the slack coming off the line with that spinning rod. So you kind of offset that a little bit with that bait caster. You get that thing set right with that Platinum reel, get your spool tension right, run your magnets up there about 6 or 7, and you'll be surprised just how well that little dude will cast on a bait caster. So that's the setup. You know, keep it pretty simple. That Bass Pro cranking stick is in my opinion impossible to beat for all crankbait fishing, but it definitely does the job here. If you wanted to step down to a 6.6, you could go with that and either a medium or medium light action in that Bass Pro cranking stick. But for me, going down the bank, you know, making as long a cast as I possibly can, that 7 foot medium action is my go-to rod.